Have you ever thought about the power of social media? Social media has the power to make your business grow. Grow! Yeah! Why don't you let us manage your social media? Because our business is to see your business grow. Visit us at www.bstownmedia.co.za.
The tariff for data is high, then it becomes sort of a disincentive to actually get all of these things working.
I think the great takeaway should be that renewable has a potential in Africa, but then it's not going to completely displace the existing power systems that we have. It's going to be complementary to the existing power systems we have. And I'm saying this because, one, we're talking about industrialization in Africa. And when we talk about industrialization, these heavy industries still will need the conventional power systems that we have. But then if you look at energy that is being used in our homes, these are the areas that we can target the renewables. So we can bring in the renewables. My perspective is that we can bring in the renewables without even building new conventional plants. Let me give an example. You may have a conventional plant that may be producing, let's say, 1,000 megawatts. Out of this, you may have maybe 300 megawatts being used in the homes. And if we can bring in renewables that can power the homes, then this additional 300 is released and can be used by the industry.
If they're trying to do this by their own means and try to do a tailor-made solution, it typically takes up to 10 years to get the regulations, to go through tender process and all of this. And it only takes 1 or 2 years to actually implement, because that's the other beauty about renewable. Not only they are clean, but they can be implemented much faster than any other generation, sort of generation. And it would be a shame now to start, work for 10 years when there are many good examples around the world. And I think South Africa is definitely much more advanced than many other countries, particularly in the sub-Saharan Africa, where they could basically copy what has been done here, and therefore, leapfrog all the development that is typically required.
Power Week Asia, where it's held in Singapore, they are not far from Malaysia. If you look at Singapore and Malaysia, they were where South Africa was prior 1994. Okay, oppression, no investment, infrastructure down, and today the unemployment is next to nothing. So the Power Week Asia is a good example for South Africa of how to empower its own indigenous people, for Africa to empower its own indigenous people through their own solutions, because Asia has done that and they're continuing to do that. So if you are able to make it to Singapore, don't only look at energy, look at other things that they're doing. The ocean economy, agriculture. They don't have the land, but they've got vegetables from their own gardens, So there's lots of things that we should learn from them. I always say to people, instead of creating your own river to have your own water, go drink from existing rivers.
I think regulation should not be expensive. Often regulators make it difficult for small and medium-sized enterprises to comply. And some of the aims of regulations to simplify, regulations, make sure that compliance is not expensive. Now, in that regard, a lot of changes is being made to enable, the introduction of small and medium-sized enterprises in the sector. And for instance, in South Africa, there are people who are electricity resellers who, our regulations are changing to say all they need to do is to be registered, they don't need to be licensed. So that reduces the requirement, to comply. And, and other people can go and set up, maybe using biogas or waste products, small generation facilities, which SMMEs can go and undertake. And so our regulations have to keep up with those to enable small players to enter the market.
For more stories like these, go to www.social-tv.co.za, subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on our social mediums.